Welcome to the Liverpool FC Journal, your independent Liverpool fan channel. I'm W. James. This is your news for the 10th of November, guys. It is not a good start to the international break, isn't it? I hate sitting on a loss going to the international break. If you're 2 weeks of stewing over the fact that you've lost and you've got to try and get back to winning ways once the international break is over. Obviously, Forest at Anfield is the first fixture after the international break breaks, if you want to kind of say it that way. We're going to keep going through the international break, bringing you obviously lots of Liverpool content. To make sure you never miss out, please hit that sub, ring that notification bell. We don't charge you here. We don't have paying tiers. We don't ask you to contribute money to watch content. That is not how it ever should be for fans. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this man here, Arne Slot. That there is quite clearly an issue, and there is a huge division within the fan base. Watching podcasts yesterday, watching obviously Anfield Agenda, watching Red Men, Anfield Index, watching all those pods yesterday. There's quite clearly a division between fans. Those who want to give the manager more time, want to give him the rest of the season. There's those who want to get rid of him now, who think things are not good. Look, I'm not going to pretend that all in the garden is rosy. And I think if we'd had this same discussion after the Madrid game on Tuesday night, we'd be in a very difficult position. You haven't won the last two games, beating an in-form Aston Villa, who, look, they won again at the weekend, but we obviously beat them. And, of course, beating Real Madrid, one of the better teams in world football at the moment. I don't think they're in the same level as PSG by any stretch of the imagination, but they're still a very fine team. Now, Liverpool sit 8th this morning and going into the international break, which, you know, for a team that is the defending champion is just genuinely not acceptable. Played 11 games, won 6, lost 5, no draws, interestingly, in that time. Scored 18, conceded 17. That is not good. I mean, the 17 conceded, especially when you compare that to Arsenal's 5 and Man City's 8 that they have conceded. Even Sunderland and Tottenham and Chelsea and Villa and even who else there? I mean, they've all conceded less. Does Man United have obviously conceded a goal more than us? But, you know, look, you talk at the top 6, they've all conceded less goals than we have. It has not been a good start to the season. I mean, the form, 1 win in the last 5 defeats in the last 6. It is not a pretty picture going into the rest of this season. Now, look, I'm not sitting here this morning by any stretch of the imagination and saying Liverpool should sack Arne Slot. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that questions do need to be raised and issues do need to be addressed by this management team. Because this is not a 25-26 season issue. This is a issue that started back in March, last March this year. This is an issue that started once we lost to PSG in that Champions League game. This is an issue that started since effectively Liverpool wrapped up the league title. I've said for a long time now, Liverpool have been on the beach since March and have not got out of it. Now, at the end of last season, I was publicly criticising Liverpool for their performances. At the end of the season, was told to shut up, was told to don't worry about it. But you can't just flick on the quality again after you've turned it off. Once you're in that lackadaisical holiday mode, it's difficult to get out of it. And I think Liverpool are still stuck in Dubai. I mean, have a little look at this stat for me. This is... Since that PSG exit, since Liverpool went out of the Champions League to PSG, these are the results of the games. I'm not going to sit here and read them all out to you because there's 27 games there. You know, it's a lot of games to read out. But, you know, you look at that little run towards the end of last season, you know, obviously, we lost the EFL Cup final to Newcastle. We then obviously followed that with a win in the Merseyside derby thanks to Diogo Jota. But then obviously they lost to Fulham away, did beat West Ham, scraped past Leicester. There was a 5-1 demolition of Spurs, which many people argue is the last time Liverpool actually played well. The season then kind of petered out. The last 4 games of the season, lost 2, drawn 2, no wins in the last 4, 1 win in the last 5 games of last season, which wasn't great. Then going into this season, obviously started the season with wins, but non-convincing wins. You know, the 4-2 against Bournemouth was I think, you know, on reflection, probably was a decent result now, looking at how well Bournemouth have done. The game against Newcastle, 3-2. Was a game that Liverpool should have won a hell of a lot easier against 10 men. The 1-0 against Arsenal was a good performance. The 1-0 away at Burnley was just poor. The Atletico game was a game that they nearly let slip. The Everton game, again, a game they nearly let slip. Southampton, another game they nearly let slip. And then the Palace game, I think 2-1 flat as Liverpool. It should have been 5 or 6-1 to Palace, that one. And losing to Man United at Anfield, unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. Man United have improved this season, but they're still not a good team. They're still a bunch of very average footballers. They remind me of where we were sort of, when we were signing the likes of Titi Kamara and Dan Agger and people like that. But if you look at the games since that PSG exit, Liverpool have played 27 league and cup games. So this is across all competitions. 27 games. In that time, they've won 14 of them, lost 11. Now, that actually shocked me. When I counted that up this morning, when I was sat there counting up the number of defeats in those 27 games, 11 defeats, double-digit defeats in 27 games for a Liverpool FC. Not for Palace, not for Brighton, not for Brentford, there's no disrespect to these teams, not for Everton, not for Burnley. If you were sitting here as a Burnley fan this morning or as a Fulham fan this morning and you had that record in the last, you probably wouldn't be too disappointed with a 52% win rate and 14 wins against 11 wins. But for a club like Liverpool, with the expectations that Liverpool have, with the players that we have, with the amount of money that has been spent in the summer, I genuinely don't think that losing 11 games is anywhere near acceptable for this team. Drawn 2, that's quite interesting. We've only drawn 2 games in 27 games. 2 out of 27, the draws against Palace and against Arsenal last season. That's the last time we drew games. Pretty incredible, that stat. But the other massive stat that really sticks out to me is that we've lost it's 40.7, so you round it to 41 if we're doing it mathematically now. We've lost 41% of all games in the last 27 league and cup games. 41% defeats. That's not draws or not winning. That's losing. That's actual losing games. 41%. That's alarming. That is an alarming statistic for a Liverpool team to have lost 41% of their games. They've lost just under half their games this season, having spent £500 million on footballers in the summer. Just let that sink in for a minute, because that for me is an exceptionally worrying statistic. It's an exceptionally concerning statistic, and I think if you look at that set of fixtures and those set of results since that PSG exit, and you can kind of see, I think, where some of us were coming from last season, that this lackadaisical on the beach attitude that the players developed has kind of stuck going into this season, and there doesn't appear to be a focus there from the players to some extent. And I'm not putting this all on a slot. The players do have to carry some of the blame, because you're watching some of these games and you don't see the heart of the bottle to fight for results. I think the central defenders in particular don't put their body on the line enough. I think if you go back to yesterday, the Doku goal, the third goal, if Konate throws himself in the way of that ball, does he block it? Possibly does, but he gives this lazy, lackadaisical, can't be arsed attitude, which I think a lot of the players do at times. So for me, I think the players do carry part of the blame, but I think Slot does to some extent too, because I think, since that PSG game and his overwhelming love for PSG, we've seen an attempt by Arne to kind of change the style, but not to go for the PSG style that many of us thought we were going to go for with the players that were signed in the summer. There's been a change of style away from that high-octane, in-your-face football that we played. Now, I think against Madrid on Tuesday we went for that a bit more, and to some extent against Villa we did as well. But certainly haven't seen that. And the football that's being played at the moment is slow, it's dithersome, it's turgid, it's boring, it's easy to defend against, it's predictable. And I think teams find Liverpool to be very easy to play against this season. The players, to me, don't really look like they know what they're supposed to be doing out there. He's certainly not getting the best out of the talents that we have. If you look at that team from 1 to 11 when everybody's fit, the talent in that team is incredible. Alisson Becker, best goalkeeper in world football. Conor Bradley, young up and coming defender. Virgil van Dijk, probably still one of the best centre backs in world football. Konate's a 50-50 player, I'll give you that one. Andy Robertson, one of the best left backs in the Premier League still. Ryan Gravenberch, one of the best sixes in world football. Alexis McAllister, one of the best midfielders in world football. Dam Szoboszlai has been one of the best players this season. Instead, he's one of the best players in European football. Mo Salah, a generational talent. I think, Florian Wirtz is a generational talent. He hasn't shown it yet, but I think he is, if you look at his ability and his talent. Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak, both, top level centre forwards, but there's no way that the best is being got out of these players. Slot needs to find a way to bring the best out of these players, to get them back to playing the best way we can. I think we do need to go back to playing a little bit more Klopp-esque in the way that we play, and moving away from the style that Slot is trying to bring in. I think Slot is trying to bring in a very Dutch style of play, which we know doesn't really work in the Premier League. You need a more high-octane, in-your-face, physical style in the Premier League to succeed, and I think he's moved away from that. And we've certainly seen that, I think, since March this year, there's been a real drop-off, and it's a worry. And that, for me, is what is underpinning this drop-off in form. The change of style and the failure to put the players into being able to do the best they can do in the position. So, look, that's where I'm up to with this one. I do have concerns, major concerns over this. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Liverpool FC Journal as we try to grow the channel here on and grow our fan community. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.